This is your new filler with a press plate hopper on it. First thing we'll do is show you a quick demonstration of the machine filling. We're set up for this size. You'll be getting a different puck for each container. The pucks just thread onto this. They thread onto the lift table, and each container has its own. And then I'll show you a fill. What will happen is as soon as you hit the foot pedal, the nitrogen will start. The nitrogen's coming out of a tube that's in the center of this filling tube. And right now I have just regular shop air so you can hear it. In your case, you'll have nitrogen coming down. Anyway, when you hit the pedal, the nitrogen begins immediately, and the nitrogen is on while the container is lifting up. Now there's a timer over here. I don't know if we want to show it now or we can wait. This setting is the timer of your nitrogen, and that will be determined by, I would say, the bottle size, or I know you want to make sure that the container is purged of any air. So the timer is adjustable to pretty much whatever you want. So anyway, the table will lift, the nitrogen will begin, and you'll hear a little. It'll be stationary at the top, because the timer, when the timer is timed out, then it tells the machine to cycle. So you'll hear the nitrogen coming out. You'll see the container lift. Then we'll watch the container fill, and then and as it fills, it will be descending. And then the other thing I wanted to show you in this video is behind here. This threaded rod here, below this lift platform, are two nuts. One's a jam nut. One's a adjusting nut. And what that does is that determines the down stop of the container. And the way we set it is when the container descends, you don't want the nozzle coming out of the container while it's still filling. So this has a separate air cylinder that drives this up during fill. So even if you're a little bit out of time with the rate of descent versus the rate of fill, this won't let the container leave the nozzle until you're finished filling. And it takes a little getting used to, but it works great. So I'll show you. The first fill, I think I just filled it, so we might be a little ugly, but here we go. Look good. Okay, I'll do another one, and then we'll do another one, and you'll hear the what is air but will be nitrogen. We'll lift. Then there's a dwell, and that is determined by the timer. And when it times out, that's when the machine cycle starts. So I'll hit the pedal, and then the machine does the rest. There it is. Okay, just wanted to give you a quick side view of the machine. As I said before, this is the timer. That'll time your nitrogen, and it also is tied in with the machine operation. If you want more time, you want more nitrogen, counterclockwise with this knob will increase your time, and clockwise will decrease your time. This flow control here is the flow of nitrogen. So you can regulate, how much or how little you want of the nitrogen. This green hose will be your nitrogen inlet. It's a 1/4-inch tubing. I don't know what the source of it is, but we can pretty much go with any kind of tubing you need there. But for now, we have it tied into the shop air, but in your case, it'll be coming from some nitrogen source. Then also, this flow control here adjusts the speed of the discharge. If you turn it clockwise, it will slow how fast the machine is filling. Counterclockwise, it will speed up how fast it's filling. This one is the discharge. This is the intake. Works the same way. It's not nearly as critical because the machine can pull in product. You can pull in very fast, very slow, whatever you want to do. It's not that fussy in that regard. but the rate of discharge is somewhat, you want to get that set right because you don't want splashing, and then you want to optimize your production, so you want to go as fast as you can without splashing. Okay, we wanted to just show you how the nozzle operates without a container. Nitrogen comes in through the branch of this T, down this drop tube, and this tube is inside the fill tube. And when we begin to fill, this air cylinder actuates, and it'll drop the nitrogen tube, and it'll open up the fill tube. So we'll show you here. That's your valve seat. Now when we're done filling, that'll close. All right, I'll just quickly open up the guard here, show you this is the main air cylinder. This is the fill cylinder, and this is what we call the pallet air cylinder. This opens and closes this three-way valve here. And you have two sets of cylinders and pistons. This is the smaller of the two. Okay, here we're going to we'll explain the way the press plate hopper works. Right now it has its own air feed that feeds all the pump. Is basically autonomous. Now we can tie this into the machine, but we didn't know the demands on your pump. So right now we just have a quick connect fitting here, and then then that supplies the pump and the controls. This valve here tells the operator tells the pump to come up or down. When you want to pressurize the press plate, you pull this down. If you want it to come up, basically, I guess if you're cleaning it or taking it apart, you hit it that way. Now it's pulling a vacuum, so it's going to take its time, but it'll come up. You see it slowly rising. Now here, these switches control your pump. Well, they actually control this valve. This is a four-way valve that will feed your pump. You'll hear a little shift here as this knob passes the switch. That was the valve shifting. Right now I have a plug in here. When the hopper is at the high point, this switch will it will call for the pump to shut down. When your level is up to a height, to whatever height you want, this switch will actuate and shut the pump off. And when that actuator is down here, it will turn the pump on. So these switches control the air to this valve, which controls the air to your pump. And then this is whether you want to, under pretty much all the time, you're going to be down, you're going to be pressurized, to keep the press plate in contact with the product. This is an air regulator. You don't want too much downforce on the product. You want just enough to keep there's a Teflon piston in here. You want that to be in contact with the product. I have it set pretty low right now. We'll have to run. It will take a production run to see what the actual pressure should be. Oh, and then also here, these fittings are plugged right now. They're half-inch NPT fittings. There's two of them. One will be your product, the feed from the pump. We went with a pipe tab because you can pretty much adapt it to whatever you want. So if you can feed product in one of these, another one will be for a pressure relief valve, which you may or may not want. It's up to you. I would recommend it. Now we do also have this. This is just a sanitary port. What this is, if for some reason the pump ran away, didn't shut off, the piston will come up to here, and this port will be open to any kind of overflow. Okay, we're going to just show you a quick changeover from one bottle to the other. Right now, as I mentioned before, each container has its own puck, and they thread onto this post here. Now this post was on a slot. It's all set now, so you don't have to mess with it. But this can go in and out. But right now, as I said, it's set because you want to be centered under this nozzle. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room between the nozzle and the container opening. So what I'll do, I'll remove this puck, and we'll go to this side since it happens to be right here. Thread this on. Another thing I should mention: you always turn the air off when you do any servicing of the machine, because you don't want any accidents. And plus, as I'll show you, you can manipulate things as needed. So okay, you've seen the change of the puck. Now what I do here, you have to make sure that we're centered under that nozzle. This head can be turned if it's bumped because it's on a sanitary clamp. So just always double check that we're centered, in which we are. Okay, so we're good. Now what I'll do, as I mentioned earlier in the video, these nuts here control your downstop. So what we want to do is we want to begin filling, and then as we're filling, the rising table will follow down the fill level. But we want to stop filling, right about the level of our finished product. So what I'm doing, I drop the table by hand to that level. Now this air cylinder in the back here, while this is filling, this will be extended. So that'll be up, and then that will determine, these nuts will set, by setting them, we will set our downstop. So when we come down with this cylinder extended, I don't know how much the camera's going to show you this, but we'll come down, hit the downstop, and then it will release it. That part of it's very simple. Also, this is your main lift air cylinder, and pretty much all the air cylinders have flow controls or speed controls on them. This upper flow control controls how fast we lift. That's pretty much left alone. You just want to come up at a comfortable, fairly quick speed. Now the bottom one determines your drop, and I believe in your case you're going to want the drop of the container to follow the speed of the fill. So you can adjust that by adjusting this flow control either faster or slower on the descent. Okay, then another important thing on that, if you want to come over here, you're going to want to set your quantity. And that quantity is set, you just loosen this lock nut. Now this container it's much less. I haven't figured out the actual stroke, but I'm going to turn this hand wheel in, and that will decrease the volume because we want less, obviously. Crank that in, and I usually just go a little hand tight on that. This is a seal washer, and that's about it. Oh, and also, as I said before, when you want to correlate the speed of the descent with the speed of the fill, and that's done by these two flow controls. This flow control, you can let's say for instance you're dropping too fast. You can either slow down the rate of descent of the table, or you could speed up the fill if you're not, as long as you're not splashing. So if you wanted to speed the fill rate up, turn that counterclockwise.